Hello, good morning or good evening whenever you are watching this. I hope you are doing well. My name is Catherine and today I am tier ranking all the books that I read in the first half of 2024. Yeah, you heard that right. I am indeed tier ranking all of these books. It came to my attention I have not done a single wrap up this year. Not for lack of trying, just for lack of wanting to edit and plan. So here we are. Currently I am 95 books deep into 2024. And what better way to give you all my thoughts and opinions than with a rapid fire tier ranking. It should be noted right here and right now that this is in no way rapid fire. This is a long one. Grab some snacks, pull up a chair. I honestly don't know if people still do tier rankings, but I always had so much fun doing these and watching these videos. As you can see, I have my tier rank here and ready to go. This has all of the books that I read and a couple books that I DNF'd in here. Since I don't star rate books, this is also kind of a way to show like the vibes of what I was feeling about the book. So let's talk about it before we get into the tier rank itself. I have 8 different tiers that the books can get sorted into. First is Obsessed. These are new favorites of mine, ones that I want everyone to read. I'm gonna recommend a lot, just ones that I kind of fell in love with this year. Next is Loved. These ones are ones where they aren't quite books that I'm obsessing over, and I'll still recommend them. I still really liked them. They're still like in kind of the upper rankings of my books. However, they aren't necessarily new favorites of mine. Enjoyed, but I get why others didn't. These are books that I personally found a lot of enjoyment with. However, I can also see either like because of writing flaws, editing, blah, 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 plot points, whatever it might be, it might not be everyone's cup of tea. Then we have It Was Fine. These are books where I don't have a strong opinion about them. I think they were good. I don't regret reading them. I don't necessarily think they're bad. They just aren't necessarily books that I'm going to like immediately recommend to someone. On the flip side, I also have Didn't Like But Get Why Others Did. These are books that for me personally, they were not it. They're not my cup of tea for whatever reason. However, whether it is the characters or the plot or whatever it might be, like I understand why people like them. This is a little bit of a interesting rank, and that is genuinely don't know if I love or hated this book. There's a couple books that I read where I can't say I liked them, but I can't stop thinking about them in neither a negative or positive way, kind of. So you'll see when we get to those. Then we have I Regret Finishing It. These are books I should have DNF'd, but didn't for whatever reason. And then we have the books that I DNF'd. I don't DNF a ton, mostly because like I know what I'm gonna like when I pick up a book, so I just don't really DNF because I don't pick up books that I think I'm not gonna like. These books are in no particular order. Without further ado, let's get into this. Starting off with All the Right Notes by Dominic Lim. This was a book that I read for the book club at work, and it was fine. It's a second chance queer romance. It was fine. Sure Thing by Joanna Lowell. I absolutely loved this book. Actually, I might put it in my obsessed rank. Going high, starting off strong. I really love this. I read the entirety of this on my plane ride back from California. I love seeing queer historical romances because we just don't get a ton of those. And I really love the chemistry between Kit and Penny. A Soul to Heal by Opal Rain. This is book 2 of the Dusk Walkers series. I think this one is one that I enjoyed, but I do understand why other people don't. I feel like it could go through another round of editing, probably. This one in particular did have a trope that I'm not necessarily a fan of, but like I still really love the world and I love the monsters, and it's just so fun. I did reread all of ACOTAR and I read the 3 books in the Crescent City series. A lot of mixed feelings on these ones. Starting off with A Court of Thorns and Roses, you know what? It's one of those where I have a really good time while reading it. I really like the fairy tale vibes of it. However, I 100% understand why people don't like it. It is very basic. A Court of Mist and Fury, I still really love it, even though I don't necessarily enjoy Rhysand as much as I did back the very first time that I read it. Court of Wings and Ruin, enjoyed, but I get why others don't. Frost and Starlight. Actually, I'm gonna put this one in This Is Fine. Silver Flames, loved. I think that one is my favorite of the ACOTAR series so far. Crescent City, still probably my favorite of the Sarah J. Maas books. I love that one. I love Bryce and I love Hunt and I love Rune and I love the world that it creates. It had so much potential for that series. I love that book. And then we get to the other two. My feelings on Sky and Breath is it was fine. It was setting up a lot. It had that like second book, like, okay, we, you know, gotta build some things up, and it was fine. Time in Shadow, I did genuinely enjoy my time while reading it. My issues do come down to, I don't think Sarah J. Maas likes being edited, and even the greatest writers in the world need editing. It just is a fact. And that's all I'm gonna say on that. Butcher and Blackbird. Okay, this one I genuinely really enjoyed. I get why someone might not like it. It is a, you know, a dark rom-com. It's about 2 serial killers falling in love with each other. It gets really grotesque at some point. Speaking of which, Leather and Lark. I loved that book. I love Lark so much. Just, I love the tension between the two of them, and I love how unhinged Lark is. Next 2 books are the 2 books in the American Queen series by Sierra Simone, so American Prince and American King. I have about the same feelings about these 2, and it is, I genuinely don't know if I love or hate these books. These books are some of the most unhinged books I have ever read, and I regularly read monster romances. They are the closest King Arthur retellings that I've read, and that isn't necessarily a good thing because it includes some things that should not have been in the original story. I love Sierra Simone's writing, and I do think she's totally unhinged for some of the things that she writes, but I do have a great time reading them. Done and Dusted. Okay, this one is a cowboy romance. It's a very popular cowboy romance right now. I never thought I would be someone who enjoyed a cowboy romance. I actually had a good time reading this one. I wouldn't say it's like a new favorite or anything. It doesn't necessarily fall under it was fine, but it also isn't something that I'm like gonna write home about. Cleo Evans. I binged a bunch of Cleo Evans books. I'm actually gonna start with the Not So Kind Regard series. This series is a series of novellas that I had a really great time with. They get a little wild, and there is actually like an overall story arc between all of them. They're all like 150 pages, but then they do have like one full story going through all of them, even though they're following different triads. So all of them are threesome couples, not couples, threesomes. Triad relationships. And I feel about equally about all of them. I actually didn't love Thanks in Advance. Tentacles aren't my favorite. I'm gonna say that right here and right now. The rest of these I had a great time reading them. I can understand why people wouldn't like them. As I do with all monster romances, I'm like, listen, I get it. They aren't for everyone. They are for me though. And then Little Slice of Hell. I honestly, the first one wasn't my favorite. It was actually a reread for me. It set up the world but it wasn't necessarily like something that made me want to continue on with the series. The reason why I started reading it again was because I read the Not So Kind Regards, and it does take place all in the same universe. The first one was fine. I did really, really enjoy the second one though. Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. This one comes out in July 16th, and it is so good. It is so good. The tension between the characters, like, I don't even know how she does it. Julie, you master queen. I love it. A book that was like kind of surprising was this audiobook that I listened to called Someone Who Will Love You in All Your Damaged Glory. It is a series of essays. I was pleasantly surprised by it. It's very satirical, very tongue-in-cheek. I had a really good time reading it. Some stories are stronger than others, so I can get why people like might not necessarily like it in a whole. Stone Hearts is a really interesting one. It was really like, I was surprised by how much it was based in Welsh mythology. I wasn't really expecting it to go that deep. I will say the pacing wasn't the best. I buddy read this one with Elizabeth. It was good. Some of the pacing, not the best, but like I overall really enjoyed the story, and I really liked the mythology aspects of it. It's not something I'm personally super familiar with. Let's actually start. So first one I read of Sarah Blue's books was Omega's Obsession for the Classic Literature Book Club. I really, really liked it. Again, another one where I enjoyed it. I can understand why other people wouldn't though. It's an Omegaverse. It's a little crazy. The ending also wasn't my favorite. I then wanted to continue on with Sarah Blue's books, and so I picked up Heat Heaven, which is the first book in the series technically, but it's a novella and it kind of sets up the world. It was fine. Some of the things I liked about Omega's Obsession, mostly it being, so it's a reverse harem Omegaverse type situation. I didn't love that in Heat Heaven, not everyone was in a relationship. And same thing with One Packed Up Pack, which is a Why Choose Omegaverse hockey romance, because why not? So ridiculous. Again, it was fine. I did like, all the guys were just kind of best friends, and they did have like a really deep relationship, but like I just, the entire time I'm like, why aren't you all together? At First Bite by Olivia Day, this was unfortunately a very big disappointment for me. It's still like is in the it was fine realm. The past two books of Olivia Dade's that I've read, her characters have just become very caricature-y, and it hasn't necessarily been my favorite. Hold Me by Courtney Milan. I actually really love this one. This was another book that was in for my book club at work, and I really, really liked it. It's a like almost Pride and Prejudice type retelling. He sees her as very like girly and not very serious, and she sees him as very, I don't know, just very stuck up. And I appreciated it. Like, it felt like a true kind of enemies to lovers type situation. The Cocked on the Block by Amy Ward. This one is one of those books where like, this is a silly, fun rom-com. It is not meant to be taken seriously, as you can tell from the cover and the title. And the sequel, I am putting in loved, because I genuinely loved this book. It's a Taylor Swift Travis Kelce fanfic. Like, that's just what it is. But she's plus sized, which I really enjoy. I love the family in this book. I love the family dynamic. I'm so excited for the rest of the series. Late Bloomer by Maisie Eddings. I really loved this one. I loved the characters. I love the setting. They're both a little bit of a mess, and just like their relationship and their development, and both of them kind of learning to stand up for themselves is just so good. Not in Love by Allie Hazelwood. This is, okay, this goes right under Bride in terms of Allie Hazelwood books. Still obsessed with it. Still absolutely, totally obsessed with it. I love the character of Rue. She's so different than any other character any other female character Allie has written. And I love their relationship. I love their dynamic. I think that it is just so much fun and so steamy. Muscles and Monsters by Ashley Bennett. This was both of these, the this and the Tentacles and Triathlons. I think both of them are fine. I don't necessarily like the writing in them. Again, it's one of those ones where like, it's a fun, goofy time, but something about the characters just didn't totally hit for me. You with a View by Jessica Joyce. Loved. So good. I think this one, it just, I don't know, it hit in a way that had me crying. For better or for worse, I'll put that in enjoyed, but I get why others didn't. It was a fun rom-com, very like lighthearted, fake dating type vibes. It wasn't anything necessarily new. Plot twist, okay, here's the thing. I loved so much about plot twists. However, I'll put it there. There were like two things. It got real serious in the end, and it almost got to the point where I'm like, I don't know if this like is actually a HEA ending. This is a personal, very personal thing. She goes to visit a bookstore. It's a romance bookstore. It's named. It's the place that I work. I don't necessarily like reading books that characters go to the place that I work because I just find it weird. And it's like, it's just a personal thing. If I didn't work there, I'd probably be like, oh my God, that's so cute. For me personally, I'm like, I don't want to read about my job when I'm like, it's my day off. Anyway, okay, Not Your Crush's Cauldron by April Asher. This is book 3. It wasn't my favorite of that series. I had like certain expectations of it. And I don't know, like it didn't really hit. For the wrong reasons, I had a really fun time with. I don't necessarily like books that are set in like a bachelor type setting, or any sort of like reality show type thing, just not really my thing. I am gonna put in the enjoyed, but I get why others didn't, because the characters made a lot of like weird choices that I just didn't really agree with. And then also I felt like everyone outside of our two main characters didn't feel real. The Longest Autumn by Amy Avery. Unfortunately, I am gonna put in the didn't like, but I would get why others did or would. It was weird. The relationship, the world building, I don't know. It just wasn't working for me. Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson. I loved this, and it's a megaverse, and I know that's not everyone's cup of tea, but I loved it. I thought it was so fun. I thought it was so well written. I loved the characters. I had such a good time. Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. Unfortunately, that one is going in the didn't like, but I get why others did. The main character to me was very not like other girls. She was very like 2010s rom-com coded, which would be fine, but it is 2024. Savor It by Tara DeWitt. Loved so much. So good. I love all of Tara DeWitt's books that I've read so far. Her characters, again, just like are so real and so raw. So even when they're really fun, like rom-com funny moments, they deal with like some really serious subject matter, and I really love the balance that she finds in her writing. Sovereign, that was a DNF. I just don't do dark romances. I don't do kidnapping. I don't do murders. Well, I did like Butcher and Blackbird, but they murdered for a good cause. Catch. I loved this one. It was so good. It is basically like The Proposal. So if you like The Proposal, but with like an influencer type twist to it, it's so good. I loved it. Destroy the Day by Bridget Kammerer. I really loved that book. It is the third and final book of this trilogy, and the ending was so satisfying. It was so wild, and I was worried because the past two books, like all the twists and things were a bit predictable to me, and I wasn't too sure where this one was going to go at the end, and it like honestly took me by surprise. It had me crying, and then like the ending was really satisfying. Book of Azrael. I'm gonna say with this one, it was fun. There were certain things that I really liked about this book, and I liked the characters. I liked the like plot and the idea, the writing. It's one of those things where I'm like, it needed to go through a couple more rounds of editing. I'll probably continue on with the series at some point. Out on a Limb, loved, which is shocking because it's an accidental pregnancy trip. Did not expect that I would like that. I don't like reading that at all. One of my least favorites. Yikes. But I loved the characters. I love their relationship, and I talk about this a little bit in my mid-year freak out tag. Already is the start of a good foundation. I like honestly believe that they would be wonderful like co-parents, and like they could be functional together. And then on top of that, like seeing their relationship build as they're figuring out this new dynamic between the two of them, I really loved it. Next of Kin, I am gonna put in the it was fine category. There were certain things in it where it was like, I don't know, their relationship didn't hit me as much as I liked Out on a Limb. And the same thing for, I forgot to put it in order. Okay, for some reason, it didn't want to upload this one. Next to You, I felt similarly where there was like just one or two moments where I really should have a separate tier that is called, I liked it except, because that's kind of how I feel about that one, where it was like, I liked it except for this one specific thing. Technically Yours by Denise Williams. It was a very classic, basic rom-com. I really liked it. I would get why someone might not. That's a Glove is my second DNF. I did not like it. I read bits and pieces of it. Not my thing. Don't like dark romances. The Duke Starts a Scandal. I thought it was, my main complaint was the cover sold a different dynamic than what it was. I thought it was a good basic historical romance. Business Casual by B.K. Borson, and it is so good. If you love the Love Light Farm series, I love this book. I love this book. It is the perfect like small town romance. I love the characters. I love Nova. I love Charlie. I think the two of them have such a great dynamic. It's so good. Midnight Ruin. Pretty sure Midnight Ruin is the Orpheus, Eurydice, and Chiron. I think I genuinely like anything I didn't really like about the book was because of the audiobook narrator. I really did not like the audiobook narrator. So Shadow Crown and Vicious Game, these are the next two books in the Halfling saga. I love this saga. I love this series. It just is so good. If you're someone who likes, you know, assassins and like really complex political intrigue, there were certain things that I was like, I think I know what's gonna happen. And then there was a twist at the end of the last one that I was not expecting, actually. Genuinely did not expect it. I had so much fun. A Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch. This is one that I enjoyed, but I get why others don't. Very classic rom-com. Don't Want You Like a Best Friend. I really like this one. I thought it was very sweet. 7 Year Slip, right up to the top there. Loved so many of Ashley Poston's books. I think she's an incredible writer. Yeah, I like the way that she talks about grief in her books is so good. I love the characters' dynamic. Ravish a Rogue. I love C.M. Nascosta's writing. I think it's so fun. The ending was wild. Partner Plot, love. It was so good. It was so fun. I love the characters. I mean, I love a fake dating. Like, I love fake dating. Fake dating, it's so good. Rein Me In. Do it? I'll put it in loved. I wouldn't say it's like not necessarily a new favorite, but this was the first like cowboy romance that I've read, at least recently, since cowboy romances have had a resurgence. I love the characters. It's a second chance romance type deal. I love the family dynamic. There's so much about it. It's so good, and I loved it. The idea view. This is another one that gets to go in the genuinely don't know if I loved or hated it. I read this because I wanted to watch the movie and I wanted to read the book first. This book is unhinged. Not in the same way of like American Prince, American King. It's just like you're reading it and you're like, this is this woman's fantasy of Harry Styles, and that's wild. Queer Girl is going to be okay. That is another one that I would put in the it was fine category. I think it achieved what it was wanting to do, and I always appreciate queer YA. King of Wrath, King of Pride, King of Greed, King of Sloth. Okay, I really liked King of Wrath. I think it did very similar things to Twisted Love while fixing some of the problems that other people had. It does kind of go again in that same category of like, I liked it, but, and like there was just a couple things here or there. King of Pride. It's very telling that I don't necessarily remember what King of Pride was about. Don't really remember too much about it. I'll put it in the it was fine category. King of Greed. I really liked King of Greed. It's a second chance romance. He has to grovel. The end. Still putting it in the enjoyed it, but get why others want it. King of Sloth is probably my favorite so far because it has reformed Playboy vibes to it, and I love that trope. It's so good. Dragon's Bride. Not my favorite in terms of monster romances. Still had a good time reading it. Reptiles, not really my favorite. Truly, Madly, Deeply. We're just gonna slot this one. It is so good. It's so good. It's my favorite of Alexandria Bellefleur's so far, which is saying a lot because I love all of her books, but this one in particular, I love the characters, I love the plot, I love the relationship, the spice is real spicy. It is so good. Let's get into the Kennedy Ryans, shall we? Because I mean, I feel like all of them go right up to the top. I will say, This Could Be Us, I'm gonna put it in loved, which is shocking, I know. It's still one of my favorites. Yeah, I love anything Kennedy Ryan writes. She can do no wrong. Love her, obsessed with her. Didn't quite live up to Before I Let Go, the first book in this series, so I am just gonna put it in loved. When You Are Mine, I'm also gonna put that one in loved. Loving You Always, I'm gonna put that in obsessed. It's a duology. It is a you have to read them back to back. It is so good. I don't know how she writes these like deep, heavy things and things that I don't always necessarily agree with, but I still really am always rooting for the characters. I don't know how she does it. It's so good. It made me sob like a baby. Be Mine Forever, I am gonna put in loved, mostly because I didn't necessarily like the guy. Until I'm Yours, loved. So good. Obsessed. That one also made me cry a lot. Kennedy Ryan, she just knows how to make me cry. Bergman Brothers series. Let's do it. I feel fairly similarly about all of them in that they're all in loved or higher. Only When It's Us, I think that one I'm gonna put in, I'm gonna put that one in obsessed. That one definitely ranked high. Always Only You, I'm putting in loved because there was a lot of pop culture references. It really just took me out of the story. Ever After Always, he just kind of pissed me off at some points. Wasn't necessarily bad, but I am just gonna say love. Everything something, I can't remember. Can I even read that? Everything For You. Putting that in obsessed, so good. I loved them. Perfect Grumpy Sunshine type relationship. With You Forever, putting that right up to, I'll put this one in loved. Ooh, actually no, I'm gonna put this one in obsessed. If Only You, putting you in obsessed. Again, reformed rake type vibes, so good. And then the last one I am just gonna put in loved because I really loved it, but it wasn't my favorite of the series, but it had a really satisfying ending. Bergman Brothers Better Run. Or no, I didn't DNF that. I did finish it. I regret it. It was not good. I'm so sorry. I think this was Manda's pick for classic literature, and no. The Prospects. I really loved The Prospects. I thought it was really sweet. There was a little too much baseball in it for me. Sweet Vengeance. I am gonna put that in enjoyed, but I would get why others might not. It's very dark. It's very dark, but I loved it. It was Power Unbound. Okay. Here's the thing, I still really liked it. The characters didn't have as much chemistry as the last two books. This is the third book in the series, so it was good, but the ending didn't quite hit the way I wanted it to. I think I gotta put it in the it was fine. There was just like a couple too many things where I was like, no, not really vibing with it. Collide. I'm gonna put that in didn't like, but get why others did. Another one where it was just too long. Full Moon Over Freedom. You're gonna go to, you know what? I'm gonna put you in loved. Concert of Fire. Enjoyed, but I would get why others wouldn't. I think it had a lot of really good setup to the rest of the series, and I'm really interested to see how the series continues. I then reread Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf. Loved. So good. So good. The second book, The Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human. Obsessed. That one I think is my favorite of the series. Ending with some monsters. Had to end strong. I feel like I'm just gonna put, I think the first one I'm gonna put in enjoyed, but I would get why others wouldn't. Love, Laugh, Flinch. I'm gonna put that one in. It was fine. It didn't have my favorite like dynamic between the characters. Gargoyle from General Management. Loved. I just love gargoyles. That's it. End of sentence. As you can see, I've had a decent reading year so far. The majority of them are kind of middle of the road, but there have been like a few really good gems that I've just had such a great time reading, and I'm so excited for the rest of the year. I've read 95 books so far. We'll see how much I end with. I would love to beat how many I read last year, which was 158. I read 158 for the past 2 years, so I'd love to at least hit that. Let's hope it happens. And go ahead and comment down below what's been your favorite book that you've read so far this year, and what's a book that you haven't necessarily enjoyed so far this year. I want to hear all the tea. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you get notified every single time I post. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time, bye.